The older generation who lived their youth pre-social media don't always understand the impact social media and technology at large has on how a large percentage of the population learns, interacts, understands, and absorbs information. So we don't necessarily get the education in all its forms, not just academic, life skills based as well, sex related as well, are all now in the central teaching hub called the online space. So much so that the challenge now is sifting through the extremely wide range of information to get to the one that aligns with your family and individual values, beliefs, and ideologies. The harsh reality is children don't need their parents to teach them anything, even about sex. The internet and social media can do it for you, but the danger there is the information available online was put there by people of varying values, beliefs, and ideologies. So picture this. Whilst you're focusing on putting food on the table and giving your children the best education, the chances in life that you want them to have, the internet and social media is teaching them about sex, relationships, wealth creation, communication, and other soft skills needed to navigate through life today and in their adulthood. So like it or not, we must embrace social media if we want our children to thrive, be balanced, connect with the right values, beliefs, and ideologies. And with me to talk some more about this is a gentleman called Francis Francis, can you please pronounce your surname for me?
Arihilam.
Arihilam. Yes. Francis is a psychotherapist and head human resources West Africa at AutoCheck. He's an experienced talent and performance manager and EAP design and behavioral psychology, as well as advisory board member at PlusTvAfrica. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yes.
Welcome again, Francis. Francis, please pronounce your surname again.
Arihilam.
Arihilam. Where's that from?
Imo State, actually.
Imo State.
Yes.
It's actually a really nice surname.
Thank
What
you
does it
very
mean?
much. So it means I have survived, or I'm well, or I'm okay.
Wow.
Arihilam, that's what it means.
Wow. I wish we were here talking about languages and the meanings. But today we're talking about sex education and social media.
Exactly.
And hopefully you should be able to shed some light on this for us.
Sure.
And let's just delve right in. So my first question is, does social media positively or negatively impact sex education?
So I think the first way to think about it, right, is to ask what exactly is social media. Right?
Okay.
Right. Social media is a tool of information, right? And that tool of information is neutral. Now, it's like, for example, you have a knife in your house. You can use that knife for cooking. You can use that knife when you're angry to do something really crazy, right? That's the way to picture social media. So,
it's a tool.
It's a tool for communication.
For communication.
Yes, right. It's a tool for communication where people are exchanging ideas, exchanging information, and lessons are being picked up. So now, the most important thing to really look at is what exactly is the role of social media. Social media is a tool, like I said. It's like a knife. You can either use it to cut your food, or you can use it to stab someone when you're angry. So, but the thing again is that today, as we see it, there are a lot of content on social media. Now, the question is, what is the balance? You'd realize that a lot of the content that are viral negatively impacts our mental health, sex especially, right? The information that are positive are very, very small. And that's the reason why, so I'll give you an example. Typically, when you go on social media and you maybe think about marriage, for example, what information comes first? Oh, home is broken. Oh, this person has been served breakfast.
That's true,
that
actually.
person has been served breakfast. But the truth is that there are a lot of people who are getting it right in their marriages, and they are probably not on social media talking about it, or they are talking about it but in a very small circle. So the question then is, do we need a lot of information on the positive side of sex on social media? The answer is yes. Do we have a lot of information on the negative side of social media, or negative side of sex on social media, the answer is yes. So the question then is, who will take the responsibility to put a lot of good content about sex on social media? Because you and I know that social media ain't going nowhere. It's here. There is a dedicated, series that talks about sex, and it's just there on a very popular streaming site around the world. And people watch it and they get their education from that particular point. So, going back to the question, does it positively or negatively affect? It depends on where you're looking at, right? And it's just around the volume of information. Unfortunately, the negative volume of information is higher, where, women are objectified as sex objects. There's just a lot of confusion, right? But, maybe as we go into the show, I'll talk a lot about all of that.
Because I love the analogy you used about the knife. The knife can either feed you or kill you. It's that simple.
Simple.
And that's the exact same thing with social media. But then there's something else you just said now, that a lot of the positive information on sex, for example, is not readily available. And somebody has to, people have to be responsible for being custodian of putting that information on there.
Exactly. And, so to add to that, to get to that point, something needs to happen. There needs to first be a shift in thinking around what exactly sex is all about and how the conversation around sex is happening. Because a lot of people do not agree that sex is a topic that you should have.
Yes.
But, let's
No, go on, because you're right. And you're 100% right. That shift is absolutely imperative. How do we get to that shift?
So, first and foremost is, your children should know that body parts are body parts. Let's even start from that point.
I've heard that a lot over the last few weeks. Stop calling body parts odd names.
Yes.
Call them exactly what they are.
Call them. And do you know why it's important not to call them funny names? It's because the mind is designed to want to explore mystery.
Okay.
So, if you have a room in your house, and that room door is always locked, I tell your children, never enter this room.
I will enter that room first.
Do you understand? So they would always want to know why. You didn't tell them why they should not enter the room, but you just said them, do not enter this room. The human mind is designed to want to uncover mystery. That is why development has happened up till now. You look at 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, till where we are today. It is because people sit down somewhere and they're asking themselves, what are the better ways to move from point A to point B? It was a horse, then it became a car, then it became a plane, then, whatever is happening. So, whenever you give body parts odd names, right? And say, a vagina is a vagina. A penis is a penis. A nose is a nose, and eyes is an eyes, and ear is an ear. So when they now grow up, as they begin to form, and then realize that the name that you gave these body parts is not the actual name, what you have successfully done is you've breached trust at level 1.
Wow.
So they begin to doubt the integrity of everything that you're saying.
I didn't even realize it was that deep.
Yes, it is. They may not come out to say it, but okay, well, why did my mom not tell me that a vagina is a vagina? What is so special about a vagina? Wow. Then she goes to school and she hears her friends talking about vagina. What is a vagina? Oh, you don't know what a vagina is. You don't know anything. Wow. Now, the desire to belong is now being threatened. Because it is a natural human need. When you walk into a place, you either want to be accepted, you want to be heard, you want to be understood, and when you don't feel all of these things, right? There are two things you now do. It is either if you are self-aware enough, you go somewhere else. If you are not self-aware enough, you try as much as possible to adapt. And in adapting, you now begin to take in the values that, in quotes, were fed to you by these people. And that's how this... So it's... And the reason why I started from childhood is because that is where it starts. When you when you cannot always be with your children. They will grow up, they will leave home, they will go to school, they will have friends. You can pray, yes, good, but most importantly, you must, as a matter of fact, establish trust with your children at their formative age. Because when you do that, what happens is that every information they get, they come and bounce it off you. How you respond to those information, and I use the word respond, not react, determines if they are going to come back again.
Let's then connect that to social media. Because again, there's something you said whilst you were explaining this. You said they either want to be accepted, they want to belong, and if they can't come back to you to talk about what it is that they've heard, they're going to go somewhere else.
Exactly.
And now that somewhere else is online.
Simple. Because their mobile phones are with them. So you cannot even imagine, you can't even as a parent think about denying your child the privilege of being technologically savvy.
I'm so glad you said that.
You cannot afford it because you will set them back by 20 years.
20 only.
Or maybe even,
even longer.
Because the world is moving at such a fast pace that everything is changing really quickly and technology is driving a lot of things. So you cannot say you will not give them access to technology because your fear is that it is going to lead them astray. Then you've not done a good job. And I do not apologize for that.
No, you shouldn't.
Right. You've not done a good job, because if you have done a good job and you give them a tool, what they use that tool to do is to further drive the values that have been instilled in them from the very first place. I mean, let's take an example. So, and I say this carefully, however, right? This is not to say that as a parent you cannot, spend a lot of time, invest a lot of energy bringing up a child appropriately, and then something just happens along the way and then the child drifts, right? That doesn't mean that you didn't do a good job, right? It just means that there was a break somewhere. It's to be able to find that place where that shift happened and correct as early as possible. But then taking it back, right, into social media and exactly, when they go out, how do you ensure that as they go out, right, and they interact with these two called social media, right, that you are not in tears every day saying, what have I done? What? So for starters is establish that trust, like I said the first time.
Yeah.
And what does it mean? It's in your verbal and non-verbal communication.
Verbal and non-verbal
communication. So your children are they're like sponge as they grow up. They pick up things from you. They observe you as a person because you are their first definition of what a human being should be like.
Not even an adult, a human being.
Not even an adult, a human being should be like. So they watch you. They observe you. Even though you tell them to do something and you do something else, they will pick up what you've done rather than what you said. Because what you've done just tells them, okay, this is what a human being does. I should behave like that. And that's behavioral science. I don't want to become too technical.
Okay, but to that, if you tell them, if you don't use social media yourself, doesn't that mean the child will not use social media, to your analogy? Because they've seen you not use social media.
So that then is an exception, because man by birth, we are social. I will not use the word animals, but we're social animals. And there is a way we form. Our environment, our significant emotional experiences, and essentially our upbringing, right, are the things that form us. Now, for upbringing, they've seen you not using social media, right? That may last them for a while until they go into another environment. They go into school. They start interacting with their colleagues. They give them assignment. They need to research. They begin to find their way online because they will never remain with you, right? Now, as they go online and they grab information, two things now begin to happen. They now begin to have emotional experiences. Either they begin to develop sexual attraction, or they begin to develop some sort of affection, whatever it is. It now begins to define how their relationship with the opposite sex will now become. And then that now starts to form, right? So the fact that you are not using social media as a person does not mean that they will not, because they will move into a different environment. And the world you grew up in is different from the world they are growing up in. You could afford not to use social media to get to where you were, but they can't afford not to be able to use technology, because social media is just a piece of technology, right? They can't afford not to use it because, one, they will be globally shut out of the world. And they will be set, like I said, maybe 50 years backwards. So it doesn't work.
This topic is deep, and Francis, you're going to come back because we don't have enough time.
Right.
And you're going to come back and we're going to do this again. In fact, if you can come back next Saturday, I would absolutely love for you to, because we need to really delve into this.
Right.
But in the few minutes we have left, can you give us some simple strategies on how to navigate through this social media world / parenting in relation to sex education?
So I think first and foremost, you have to guide your mind. It's very, very important, because, you know, as much as you think as a person that you have your values, your values they're like muscles. If you do not continue to service them, strengthen them, right? They would relax. And once they are relaxed, essentially anything can pass through. So the number one thing I would say for a parent, right, to a child who's, and again, if the child has gone past 10, maybe even 5, because of the way the world is now, right? What you need to do now is you need to be able to now manage the relationship, which is the fact that do not be reactive, be responsive. So I've always asked myself, or I've had conversations with maybe a couple of friends, say, what would you do if your child comes and says, I'm gay, and they were never gay before that? What would you do? Say, I can't, what, my child? No. I say, I'm not saying it's going to happen. And I'm not saying, and I mean, I'm not homophobic, but I'm just saying, are you prepared for difficult conversations? So that's the first point. So when your child comes to you and learns something about the reproductive organ, your first response should not be to shut them down. Because if you do, they will never come back. Create a room for conversation. Okay, you heard this. What do you think about it? Where did you hear this from? Oh, I heard from my friend. Okay, what do you think? Oh, I think this, I think that, I think that. Okay. You may not even have to respond to it in the moment. Go back, digest it, come back. Say, okay, you know what? These and these and these and these and these are how you should look at this thing because of these effects, right? That way, you're planting in them a seed that will germinate and will give you peace of mind on the long run. That's strategy number one.
Okay, we have to round up, so I need you to tell us these strategies as quickly as possible, but we'll do this again, I promise.
So the second strategy is, protect what you see. And to the best of your knowledge, protect what they have access to, right? By virtue of not locking the channels,
okay,
right? But educating them such that they are responsible for where they go to.
I see.
Right? Then finally, always and in all times, educate yourself around how the world is moving and how people are making decisions around their sexual orientation. And prepare yourself for those difficult conversations, right? Because if you do, question everything that you know. I mean, while we were talking, you said something about, the values of the old and all of that. Does it still have a place? Yes, it does have a place, right? But then the question is it still, was it even right in the first place? Exactly. That is where the question of re-questioning everything you have always believed, everything you've always been taught, to say, why do I hold this belief? Why do I act? Why do I think? Why do I believe these things?
And on that note, we've come to the end of the session. It goes by very quickly. But honestly, we're going to do this again. And are you available next Saturday?
I will need to confirm that.
Please, because I want us to very quickly go through it again next Saturday, where we have more time to just go through other elements. It's been awesome having you, Francis. Honestly, I'm not going to stop talking about this. I really am not. And I'm glad that there are people like yourself who are able to shed more light.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. For now. Right, so we're going to very, very quickly wrap up the show. It's going to be John, Helen, and myself. So please stay with us. And like I said, I'm going to be having Francis again, hopefully next week if he's available, so that we can take this conversation further. Stay with us.